Hello guys, welcome again to my channel UPSC Mock Tests. My name is Hardeep and we will be resuming with the current affairs for economics for January this year. So let's quickly start with it. Understanding NPCI, TPAPs and the 30% UPI cap. So what exactly is this all about? So TPAPs, basically third-party application providers. I am sure you guys will be familiar with PhonePe, Google Pay, Amazon. So as per the government regulation, what they want is कि इनकी जो monopoly है, it should not be more than 30%. I mean, any particular or any specific TPAP or application provider, third-party application provider on UPI, it should not have more than 30% of uh, market market holding or market share. So to the deadline to comply was initially January 2023, extended to December 24, and most recently, as per the January 2025 NPCI circular, it has been extended to 31st of December 2026. So NPCI, it is basically National Payments Corporation of India. It is a non-profit organization established in 2008 under the guidance of RBI and Indian Banks Association, which is IBI, which is under the provisions of Payment and Settlement Systems Act 2007. Let's have a look at the question. With reference to the UPI and TPAP regulation, consider the following statements. NPCI is a for-profit statutory body that functions under the Ministry of Finance. TPAPs are required to partner with PSP banks to offer UPI services to users. NPCI's 30% market share cap applies to all TPAPs, both Indian and foreign. So answer 2 and 3. First is incorrect. NPCI is not a statutory body and it's not a profit body. So it's first of all a non-profit body and it is by section 8 of the Companies Act, but it is not a statutory body. Next, consider the following observations about the 30% UPI market share cap for TPAPs. The cap was introduced by RBI in consultation with the NPCI. The objective of the cap is to ensure user choice and avoid systemic risks. The deadline to comply has now been extended to 31 December 26. Currently, no single type TPAP exceeds 30% of cap. So the correct answer is only 2, which is 2 and 3. But let me also explain something to you. It's a very good point, which is the objective of the cap is to ensure user choice and avoid systemic risk. So what is this systemic risk? So if you would know that when we talk about banks, we have something called as DSIPs, which is domestic systemically important banks, like HDFC, like SBI, like ICICI. So what it means is that if any of these banks fail, our economy will also fail considerably, right? Now, just going back to the logic, to the same logic and applying it to TPAPs, let's say कि GPay, which is Google Pay, it holds more than 60% of this UPI payment and transactions, right? So now let's say if there is some concern, if there is a data breach or system is getting attacked or anything of that sort happens with Google Pay, the entire ecosystem of this UPI will get stuck, right? Because users obviously will not be able to make the payments. That is the reason RBI is very thoughtful that they want to limit this to 30% as its monopoly or as its market share. So let's move to the next question then. Which of the following best describes the current role of TPAPs in the UPI ecosystem? They function as financial intermediaries who hold user funds and settle UPI payments independently. They act as interface platforms that connect users to PSP banks and NPCI's UPI infrastructure. They are regulated under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. They are required to maintain their own independent payment switches to process UPI requests. So the correct answer is C. They act as interface platforms to connect users to PSP banks and NPCI's UPI infrastructure. Okay, next is Net Zero Banking Alliance and why Wall Street banks are quitting. So in simple terms, what is this NZBA? तो एक alliance बनाई गई. This actually convened in 2021. This alliance का कहना ये था कि जो इसके partner banks होंगे वो काफ़ी हद तक कार्बन एमिशन की जो रिडक्शन है उसको फाइनेंस करने के लिए they will be participating. So let's say that if they have 100% loans that they are giving, a very considerable amount, let's say 20% or 30%, uh, they will be doing for this purpose, which is the carbon emission and the net zero emission. अब इससे क्या हुआ है कि lot of banks are actually quitting. They don't want to be a part of it, and it is because of certain US regulations. And recently, four major Wall Street banks, which is JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, and Goldman Sachs, they have quitted themselves from this alliance. India का क्या link है? India's banks like SBI and private entities have not joined NCBA. So kindly, likewise, India has no bank that is currently a part of NCBA. Though India itself is committed to net zero by 2070, in sectors like coal and power financing remains significant. The withdrawal also affects climate finance flows to developing countries, including India. So, with reference to Net Zero Banking Alliance, consider the following statement. It is a legally binding treaty signed at COP27 under the UNFCCC. Members are required to align their portfolios with net zero emissions by 2050. Indian public sector banks are among the founding members of NCBA. The alliance is part of the broader Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero. So the correct answer for this is only 2. It's voluntary, it's not legal, by the way, and there is no Indian bank at the moment. Which of the following best explains the reason cited by Wall Street banks for exiting the NCBA in 2024? It is regulatory and uncertainty and legal exposure in the US. Okay, moving on to the next one, which is IceGate, India's digital customs gateway. So when there is a shipment, let's say at our harbors, at our ports, there is a platform which is IceGate, which is a digital platform. With the help of this platform, the custom gets taken place and it makes the things really easy. So that is what the news is about. CBIC, which is Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, introduced enhancements to the Indian Customs Electronic Gateway to improve digital facilitation. So it like pre-existed. Now there are certain advancements. What are the advancements? Faster e-script transfer, single window interface, real-time cargo tracking. For you, the thing that you need to learn is what is IceGate, किसके लिए use होता है. That is the major takeaway that you have from this article. Recent updates: real-time dashboard for exporters, upgraded e-Sanchit, improved e-script transfer. So let's have a look at a question. This is, by the way, backed by Customs Act 1962. Which of the following best explains the importance of IceGate in India's trade facilitation efforts? So go through the options and try to answer it in the comment section. The correct answer is, it is unified digital portal for import-export clearance, document filing and integration with other platforms. Next is SEBI's direction to mutual funds, understanding the role of information ratio. अब सेबी ने क्या किया है कि जो अलग अलग म्यूचुअल फंड्स है ना, उनको बोला है कि देखो आपको ना मंथली बेसिस पे यू हैव टू इन्फॉर्म योर फंड होल्डर्स अबाउट द इंफॉर्मेशन रेशियो. अब ये क्या चीज होती है इंफॉर्मेशन रेशियो? इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस टू नो. इन लेमन टर्म्स, इमेजिन यू आर कंपेयरिंग टू ड्राइवर्स इन अ रेस. ठीक है जी. बोथ वांट टू बीट अ स्टैंडर्ड कार. दो ड्राइवर हैं, दोनों एक स्टैंडर्ड कार, लेट्स से कि माइकल शूमाकर का कोई एक ट्रैक की रिकॉर्ड है, उसको वो ब्रेक करना चाहते हैं. वन टेक्स रिस्की शॉर्टकट्स एंड फिनिशेस अ बिट अहेड. लेट्स से ए ने कुछ शॉर्टकट्स लिए और ये बी है और ये थोड़ा जल्दी पहुंच गया, लेकिन द अदर स्टिक्स टू सेफ रूट्स बट स्टिल फिनिशेस अहेड. ठीक है. अब इसमें हुआ क्या है? Who drove better? The first driver took more risk for the same lead. इसने थोड़ी ज्यादा रिस्क ली, लेकिन ये वहीं पे पहुंचा जहां पे बी पहुंचा. दोनों ने सेम टाइम लिया, बट ए ने ज्यादा रिस्क ली. The second driver took less risk and still beat the benchmark. So the information ratio helps figure this out by checking how much extra return the fund gave divided by how much extra risk it took, which is called the tracking error. तो मतलब रिस्क के comparatively, I mean, it's a risk to reward ratio basically, that how much risk was taken to yield how much gain. That is called information ratio. So this is the formula for it, and there is an example. Let's say कि एक fund A है, उसका वो 12% return करता है, उसका benchmark is 10%, ठीक है? उसका tracking error हो जाएगा 2%. So that's a good information ratio. Anything above 0.5 is considered decent. Above 1 is excellent. So that is there. You can also compare it with Sharpe ratio. You can read through it. Then not that important. Information ratio is important. So I hope that you have a fair idea of what information ratio is now. So mutual funds now to disclose IR monthly in fact sheets alongside the return ratio. And this is the formula. And who controls mutual funds? It's SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India. Okay. So by the way, IR जितना ज़्यादा होगा उतना ज़्यादा better है. So fund manager adds consistent value over benchmark with lower volatility. And let's have a look at a question. Which of the following benefits does the information ratio offer to investors? It helps compare the active fund manager's performance to a benchmark. It is more useful for passive index funds than for active funds. It incorporates both returns and risk in assessment. A negative information ratio means underperformance relative to the benchmark. So 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 1, 3 and 4. So the correct answer is 1, 3 and 4. Negative means underperformance. So the higher the information ratio, the better it is. IR is not meaningful for passive funds. It's more meaningful for active funds. मतलब कि जो it currently active है. Okay, so the next news is about the fiscal health index. So health about the fiscal, about the monetary aspect of India. So India's federal structure allows for a diverse fiscal performance across states. Niti Aayog's Fiscal Health Index 2025 provides a data-driven analysis of how well major 18 Indian states are managing their finances. So 18 states हैं, उसमें से how are these states managing their finances is called Fiscal Health Index, and it is led by Niti Aayog. The state that has topped is Odisha. They are being able to manage their finances pretty well, followed by Chhattisgarh, Goa, Jharkhand and Gujarat. सबसे बॉटम पे है पंजाब, आंध्र प्रदेश, वेस्ट बंगाल एंड केरला. And again, it is done by Niti Aayog in collaboration with Ministry of Finance. That's about it. You can in fact read this, that who are the achiever states, who are the front runner, who are the performer and who are the aspirational states. Okay. So these are the major sub-indices, by the way, which is quality of expenditure, revenue mobilization, fiscal prudence, debt index, debt sustainability. So it's very important for you to read through it. And this is the comparative chart. Now let's have a look at a question. Consider the following statements about the Fiscal Health Index 2025. The index includes parameters like revenue mobilization, expenditure quality, and debt sustainability. Odisha has emerged as the top performer in this edition. It is released annually by the Reserve Bank of India. So we know that the third option is incorrect. Hence the correct answer is 1 and 2. Next, Ramesh Chand Committee and inflation indexes and the types of inflation in India. So India currently is using a lot of price indices, as if someone who's already preparing for UPSC or APFC or any other exams, you would be familiar with the index which is WPI and CPI, which is Wholesale Price Index and Consumer Price Index. These are the indices which are to measure the inflation. Now, Wholesale Price Index, it measures the price changes at the producer or the wholesale level, and CPI does it at the consumer level. Ramesh Chand Committee jo thi, that was to suggest the base year for WPI, which is Wholesale Price Index. That is what the Ramesh Chand Committee was about. Now, बेस ईयर में चेंजेस क्यों चाहिए? ऑब्वियसली क्योंकि जो प्राइसेस है वो थोड़े आउटडेट हो जाते हैं. देयर आर न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज दैट आर एडेड. देयर इज ऑफ कोर्स एन इन्फ्लेशन व्हिच इज देयर ईयर बाय ईयर. सो दैट इज द रीजन वी आल्सो नीड टू शिफ्ट द बेस ईयर, एंड हेंस दिस कमिटी वाज क्रिएटेड so that we can get the base year. So this was again formed by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, chaired by Professor Ramesh Chand, who is a member of Niti Aayog. And they recommended a new base year for WPI and suggested improvements in item coverage, wage structure and frequency. What are the different types of inflation indices in India? So these are WPI currently 2011 and 12, CPI 2012, CPI rural 2012, and urban and IAP again it's just like roughly around 2011 and 12. So of course a revision is needed. Now what is the difference between core and headline inflation? So isko yaad rakhna hamesha, it's very important that headline inflation is just the inflation which is which is including the food and the fuel prices. ठीक है, मतलब which is very volatile, so to say. Core is not including any of the fuel and the food prices because that keeps on varying. क्यों वेरी करता है? ऑफ कोर्स फूड अगर स्टॉकिंग किसी लेट्स से पोटैटो की स्टॉकिंग अगर ज़्यादा है, ठीक है, अगर किसी ने उसको होल्ड कर रखा है, जमाखोरी जिसको बोलते हैं, तो उसकी वजह से प्राइस इंक्रीज होगा. सो दैट इज द रीजन इट बिकम्स अ लिटिल वॉलेटाइल. Also it depends upon how good was the monsoon, how good was the agriculture yield. So that is the reason it becomes really volatile. It doesn't give us a true picture of the inflation. Hence we resort mostly to the core inflation, which is also used in the monetary policy targeting. मतलब कि जो monetary policy होती है आपकी CRR हो गया, SLR हो गया, which is the cash reserve ratio, the statutory liquidity ratio, which is done by the Reserve Bank of India. So उसमें कोर इन्फ्लेशन का यूज किया जाता है. सो दिस इज द वेरी मेजर डिफरेंस बिटवीन हेडलाइन एंड कोर. प्लीज कीप दिस इन माइंड. Question: which of the following statements about the Ramesh Chand committee are correct? It was formed to revise the base year of consumer price index. It is chaired by a member of the Niti Aayog. One of its objectives is to improve the item basket used in the WPI calculation. So the correct answer to this is 2. It's not for CPI, it's rather for WPI. Okay, which of the following indices is not published by the National Statistics Office? So guys, always keep this in mind. Any CPI is done by National Statistic Office and WPI is done by Office of Economic Advisor. So the correct answer will be B. It is done by the Office of Economic Advisor and the DPIIT. Okay. Next is consider the following statements about core inflation. It excludes volatile components like fuel and food. It is used by RBI to assess long-term inflation trends. It usually shows higher variation than headline inflation. Okay, so the correct answer here will be A, 1 and 2. Core inflation is less volatile because it is excluding the things like food and fuel. Next question or next topic is decline in the rural poverty. So we have come to know basis some research that has recently been conducted by SBI कि जो हमारी rural poverty है, मतलब गांव के अंदर जो गरीबी है वो कम हुई है comparatively to the levels of 2011 till now, which is 2023, 24, 25. So this is done by SBI. This is done basis the National Statistics Office PLFS data, which is periodic labor force survey. उसका डेटा लेके we have just come to know. अब कितना कम हुआ है रूरल पॉवर्टी at present 2022-2023 में it's roughly around 5.4% and the urban poverty is roughly around 7.4%. So rural poverty was around 25% when we talk about 2011 and 12. और ये जो poverty that we are checking, it's based on the Tendulkar estimate, which is the Tendulkar poverty line that we have, that we follow as a standard. States with highest rural decline is Odisha, and basis of estimate is again NSO PLFS income. Why is this significant? So it dropped from 25% to 5.4%. So this is obviously a very major drop. तो इससे पता चलता है कि that there has been a lot of advancement in the rural area. So अगर आप mains point of view से सोचो, so you would also say that internet has been has actually played a very key role, a major role for this advancement, because what has happened is that migration has stopped. People are moving less from rural area to the urban area because whatever they could do once they are in the urban area, they are being able to do from the rural area itself, like cloud kitchen हो गया या कुछ ऐसा हो गया. So yeah, so there are a lot of aspects to it, so you can just like brainstorm more towards mains answer writing. Now comparison with the existing poverty lines, Tendulkar line के हिसाब से 2022-2023 में the poverty that we have in the urban area, it's around 13%, and basis अभी जो SBI की report आई है it's 7.4%. or rural में we have 25 and it is 5.4 basis the SBI estimation. Method कौन सा यूज होता है while we talk about तेंदुलकर poverty line? So they not only talk about the caloric intake, मतलब पहले क्या होता था कि तो पॉवर्टी को डिटरमिन करने के लिए इट यूज टू बी कि एक इंडिविजुअल एक दिन के अंदर कितनी कैलोरी इनटेक करता है. सो उसके बेसिस पे होता था कि लेट्स से देयर इज अ बेंचमार्क ऑफ 2000 कैलोरीज, अगर वो 2000 से कम करता है तो दैट पर्सन इज पुअर. इफ द पर्सन कंज्यूम्स मोर देन 2000 कैलोरीज देन दैट पर्सन इज नॉट पुअर. एंड ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट तेंदुलकर जो पॉवर्टी लाइन आई उन्होंने सिर्फ कैलोरी ही नहीं, उसके अलावा दे ऑल्सो एडेड एक्सपेंडिचर कि वो खर्चा कितना करता है उसके अलावा, खाने के अलावा. सो दैट वाज इंक्लूडेड इन द तेंदुलकर पॉवर्टी लाइन. So in fact, yeah, here is the complete background. So in 2009, India's poverty line was based on the 1973 methodology by the Alag committee, so which mainly considered calorie intake 2400 kilocalorie in rural areas and 2100 kilocalorie in the urban area. This method ignored the expenditure on health, education and housing. सिर्फ खाने के basis पे उन्होंने बता दिया if someone is poor or not. So that definitely had to be reformed and it apparently was reformed. Planning Commission 2005 formed the Tendulkar Committee headed by Suresh Tendulkar, and we shifted from calorie norms to consumption expenditure. Instead of just measuring the food-based calorie intake, the new method now added food expenditure on food, education, health, electricity, clothing, rent, everything. So it became kind of very, very holistic. So again, what is the use? Based on mixed recall period, updated price indices. So इसके basis पे जो हमारे price indices है, they also got updated. Now the monthly per capita expenditure basis 2004-2005 prices: rural 447, urban 579, and yeah, this is the latest data on rural and urban poverty. So let's have a look at a question now. I think we have learned enough on the poverty thing. So which of the following statements are correct regarding the recent SBI report on rural poverty? It uses the National Sample Survey Organization 2022-2023 periodic labor force survey data. It finds that rural poverty declined below 10% for the first time. The report adopts the Rangarajan poverty line for its estimation. So we obviously know that it is not adopting any report which is like Rangarajan, and it definitely used the PLFS data, and the second option is also correct. Okay, so the next is which of the following statements best explains the decline in rural poverty as per SBI's 2024 report? So the answer is enhanced rural income supported by welfare schemes. ये बड़ी हैं, इसकी वजह से we can say that the poverty has reduced or has decreased. Another question: according to SBI, rural poverty in Odisha and Chhattisgarh declined sharply between 2011 and 2022. SBI's methodology for poverty estimation combines income, inflation-adjusted consumption, and state-level indicators. The report has been officially accepted by Niti Aayog as the new national poverty benchmark. So, which of the above are correct? So, the option is A and 1 and 2. Third is not correct because this has not been officially adopted. Okay, next one is World Bank's Business Ready Report. So again, guys, this is important because we know that there was a report known as Ease of Doing Business, which was there by World Bank, which has now been replaced, or we can say it is like completely been revamped to Business Ready Report. So in October 24, the World Bank launched its new flagship benchmark, Business Ready Report. Again, ये World Bank ने ही दोबारा से launch करी है. Now it assesses business climate across 50 economies, expanding to 120 in 2025 and 180 in 2026. ये gradually expand होंगी. So अभी अगर देखा जाए तो there are 50, but अभी 2025 में should be 120. 3 main pillars हैं इनके, which is regulatory framework कि कोई भी licenses वगैरह मुझे जो मिलते हैं as business, उसमें how easy it is it. Public services, मेरे को गवर्नमेंट रिलेटेड कोई सर्विस अगर कोई चाहिए which is other than the licenses, like operational services, logistic services and everything, how easily can I get that as a business? And the operational efficiency, मैं अपने business को कितनी आसानी से operate कर पा रहा हूँ. Now it evaluates 10 life cycle topics. These are the different topics. Unlike its predecessor, Be Ready includes both de jure, which is the legal policy, and de facto, which is the firm survey data from the World Bank Enterprise Service. So ये दोनों तरह के survey लेता है, which is policy wise की एक policy कैसी है. Like for example, if I'm a business, if I'm running a business in India, it will not only ask me that how is it going basis the policy wise की policies जो government ने बनाई हुई हैं वो कितनी easy है for me to run the business. That's not only there, but also on top of that, while I'm running my firm, what are the other challenges that I am facing which are not even related to the government policies. So it's kind of including both these aspects. That is why it's a little different than what was there previously. So it's in fact also more transparent, and these are some of the topics, so you can read through it. So it's currently starting by covering 50 economies, then to 120, and then gradually to 180 in 2026. Now question: the Be Ready report began covering 50 economics in its initial year. It uses only de jure regulations for scoring. It continues and improves the work of doing business index. Which of the statements are correct? So 1 and 3. Second is not correct. It uses both de jure and de facto data. Okay, Be Ready evaluates environmental sustainability and gender issues. It includes insights directly from firm level surveys. The first report of Be Ready covers 180 economies. One pillar focuses on efficiency in service delivery. So how many of them are correct? Answer is 3. Its first cycle is covering 50 economies, expanding to 120 and then 180. Okay, next news. Cabinet announces 6% hike in jute MSP for 2025-2026. Again, this as a question you might not encounter कि कितना % hike हुआ था in any of the exams, which is APFO, EORO, Punjab PCS, but you need to know that what all crops are there in as Kharif, as Rabi, and also what all crops are part of this MSP environment altogether. By the way, let's have a look at the different crops. By the way, जो price है that is 5335 per quintal for jute, मतलब 100 kilo जो है that is for 5335, approximately 53 rupees per kg. जूट स्टेट्स ज़्यादातर ईस्टर्न स्टेट्स होती हैं, विच इज़ वेस्ट बंगाल बीइंग अ प्राइम स्टेट, बिहार, असम, उड़ीसा, त्रिपुरा. And nodal agency for procurement of raw jute under MSP is the Jute Corporation of India. Now Rabi versus Kharif crops. Trick to remember: Rabi needs rest and Kharif needs kawar, which is rain. तो जिस भी फसल में मुझे ज़्यादा बारिश चाहिए, ज़्यादा पानी चाहिए, फॉर एग्जाम्पल राइस और पैडी, तो वो that will be a part of Kharif. So that is the trick to remember it. Now MSP के बारे में हम सबको पता ही है, but let's have a look at the differentiation of the Kharif and the Rabi crop. It's I think easier for you to remember the Rabi crops because they are lesser in number. So it's wheat, barley, gram, lentil, rapeseed, and safflower. Then we have some commercial crops as well, which is jute that we just talked about, and copra. And the rest, all the crops that you see will be under Kharif. So please remember this. It's a very important question. It has been asked like several or numerous times. उसके बाद, what is the difference between MSP and FRP, by the way? MSP and FRP में ये फर्क है कि FRP, which is fair remunerative price, it's for sugarcane. It's not for any other crop. So it basically, sugar does not fall under the category of MSP. For it, there is separately a RFP that is devised by the states. CSEP क्या होती है? It's Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices. It recommends the MSPs. It की recommendation होती है कि भाई इस particular crop के लिए this should be the MSP for this year or for this season, and it gets approved by Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs. I think I've not mentioned that here. And Jute Corporation of India, it just helps in procuring. Let's have a look at a question. Consider the following statements regarding the minimum support price. MSP is declared for both Rabi and Kharif crops. Sugarcane is also covered under MSP mechanism. The Jute Corporation of India plays a role in MSP operations. So which of the following statements are correct? Only two. Sugarcane is covered under the FRP and not under MSP. Next question, which of the following crops are covered under MSP in India? Niger seed, lentil, soybean, sugarcane. तो MSP के अंदर हमें पता है कि sugarcane is not there, it's under FRP, so then that's the answer. And last question, which of the following statement is correct? Jute is grown in dry, semi-arid conditions and harvested in winter. MSP is fixed by the Ministry of Agriculture after consultation with Niti Aayog. MSP ensures procurement is mandatory for all crops by the government. Jute Corporation of India helps in procurement of raw jute at MSP. So guys, the answer is D, rest everything is incorrect. So jute needs a lot of water stagnation, so it's not semi-arid conditions, of course. MSP is not by Ministry of Agriculture. MSP ensures procurement is not mandatory. इसी के ऊपर I think वो जो farmer protest हुआ था, that was about making it mandatory, which is not yet being done. So of course that statement is incorrect. So guys, that's all about the current affairs for economics this year for January. I hope you guys have liked it, and please let me know if you guys have any suggestion over this pattern that I'm following, that I'm taking it monthly basis. Very soon I'll also be coming up, and I'll try my best to cover the NCRTs along with the questions, because I think the question is the most important part. So please stay tuned, and also please share this video as much as possible so your friends and your peers, they can also take advantage. So thank you so much for your time. You have a nice day. Bye bye.